I'm gonna start the webinar, let people into the room, and I'm going to stream to Facebook. Yes, continue as Misha and public. They have all these different permissions now that they didn't have before. It's very strange. So, all right. And that's great. So I'm going to just get to this screen. All right, so we'll just wait. People will be coming on in a few minutes. And then are you familiar with the chat feature and the Q&A feature, or do you want us to deal with that and just let you know when they come up?
I think that might be, I do know about the chat features, but I guess I don't want to get distracted. It's so easy to do that.
Sure.
Look at it.
So I'll just raise my hand like I'm a student. I'll go, Dr. Ida, there's a question.
I would love it. I would love it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking about looking at my early childhood and then my career path in terms of me as a nurse. In fact, how this segue into being who I am. And so I just trying to
Great.
follow that progression.
Great. That's wonderful.
In
That's
Chicago
wonderful.
and how I landed in San Diego, and yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I think we're gonna have a really nice evening. It's well, people are joining us on the Facebook, and those of you watching or listening to the replay, we will be beginning in about 3 minutes. We're a little earlier than usual. We're actually usually we're like literally on the dot, ready to go, but we are online now. We are live, and the replay will probably be edited because we like to have a clean start with information that everybody can have, so we can land here together. But while we wait for people, yeah, we're really early. Maybe I should say, come back in 3 minutes and watch us. So if there are people who are watching live and you would like to actually be on the webinar with us, I can give you the registration link so that you can come into the webinar and join us. You certainly, well, actually, you know what? That might not work. I probably shouldn't have done that because you can register for future ones, because I won't be able to go in there and let you all in right now. That's just not going to happen. But you can watch us here on Facebook. You can watch us on the replay. And then you can, yeah, so we have a participant who's joined us. Thank you for being here in the webinar. If you are on Facebook or in the actual webinar with us, please put in the chat using the all attendees and all panelists where you're calling in from. Let us know who you are and where you're calling in from and how you found out about our webinar. We will be starting in just a few moments, but we want to welcome you. So please feel free to let us know where you are, if you know where you are.
You know where you are.
Yeah, we've had a variety of people from all over the world tune in. It's funny, more people watch it on the replay than they do the present time. We've used to have it on Friday nights, and then we went to Sundays, and then we went earlier Sunday. So we've played around with some times just to see what really meets all folks. But it's been definitely a beautiful process to meet such incredible humans of all backgrounds.
How long have you been doing it?
Since May of last year. So it's been
wow,
yeah,
long time.
Yeah. As soon as the murder of George Floyd, it was like, you know what, this we cannot be silent. This is not okay.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
Love it.
thank you. Yeah, so yep, panelists, or if you're watching on Facebook, let us know where you are. Jody's going to be monitoring the Facebook and getting us comments and questions if you have any, and we'll actually get going. So hello everyone. My name is Misha Safran, and I am delighted. This is actually, I miscounted. I had said number 16, but this is actually number 17. We've been doing these webinars for a full year now. And you are here with us for a candid conversation about systemic racism. And our guest, who is Dr. Ida Green today, we will be introducing you to her shortly. But first, I want to welcome you, and I'm going to pass it over to Jody to bring us into the mood.
Good evening, everyone. So happy to be here and happy that Dr. Ida Green is gracing us with her presence this evening. Yeah, there has been so much happening in this country. I would say over the last year, but it has not been the last year. It's been since its exceptions to the BIPOC community and women and others. And we started more recently, starting with the moment of silence, just to recognize everyone that has been murdered, and whether they be family members that are mourning those losses, or those that are allies, the community in general, the United States and the world should be grieving, and unfortunately not everyone is, but we should all be grieving. So I would like to just start us with a moment of silence.
Feel free to put your hand on your heart, hug yourself, close your eyes, but we're going to honor and celebrate the lives of those lost who are in BIPOC community members.
Thank you. I think that it's so hard to find hope often when we're seeing murder after murder, and even when there's been more and more attention. And unfortunately, the attention has come forth because of technology. And I hate to be blunt about that, but really because it's captured on camera, suddenly people are taking notice in a way that they haven't been before. But I think even with that, it's often hard to hold on to hope and have hope. So I thought I'd just start us today with Amanda Gorman's poem that she read at Biden's inauguration, because in that there are elements of hope. And I think, having done 17 different actually more than 17 panelists, because sometimes we have more than one panelist, a common theme has been the hope in connecting. That when we're connect with one another and see each other as we are, that it creates hope, and it's going to get this country and the globe out of murdering the BIPOC community and taking for granted BIPOC community members, and taking for granted the land that we live on, which was Indigenous land. So I thought I'd just start with her words, because she spoke so elegantly then. So I'm not going to do it justice the way she did, but this is what she wrote. One day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We raid the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always just ice. And yet the dawn is ours. Before we knew it, somehow we do it. Somehow we weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country and a time where a skinny black girl, descended from slaves and raised by a single mother, can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to form a union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gazes not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek to harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true, that even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That is the promise to glade, the hill we climbed, if only we dare. It's because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. And this effort very narrowly succeeded. But while democracy can periodically be delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust. For while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared it at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves, so that once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens. But one thing is certain. If we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left with. Every breath from our bronze-pounded chest will rise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limit hills of the west. We will rise from the windswept northeast, where our forefathers first realized revelation. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked south. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover. And every known nook of our nation and every corner called our country, our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge. Battered and beautiful, when day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
Thank you, Jody.
You're welcome.
And I just want to take a moment to recognize Amanda Gorman and all the poets and artists and intuitives and business people and teachers and nurses and everyone in the BIPOC community, because it's not okay that we've waited this long to have those voices stand before us. I also want to recognize that this is, that all land is Indigenous land. And it's really important that we all as humans know that we're on borrowed territory, even though it was taken. This is something that we heard and learned through one of our webinars in February with a Native American couple from Nevada. And so we've committed to stating that each time, that all land is Indigenous land. For those of you who are new to our webinar, we do just want to state that we created the webinar to engage in honest and authentic conversations about the longtime injustice of racism in America. During the webinars, we discuss systemic racism in an effort to dismantle white supremacy from the inside out. Our intention with these webinars is to participate in sustainable action. Our intention with these webinars is to participate in a sustainable action and highlight the voices of BIPOC community members, giving them a safe space to be heard about their experiences, challenges, and hopes without the need to educate white people. And so if you identify as a BIPOC member and you would like to be a panelist, we will certainly be following up with emails with the links to schedule to be on our panel. But you can also, what was I going to say? We'll also put it in the chat and in the comments. It'll be in follow-up emails. Those of you who are on Facebook or anywhere else listening or watching the replay, we'll have all those links there for you. Because we don't want our panelists to be responsible for educating white people, we have a huge number of resources, podcasts, books, charities, newsletters, articles, you name it, for people to go and listen to and educate themselves. This is truly a time for our guest to basically share what she's experienced and is experiencing. And there is no requirement for you to share anything. If you start to share something, Dr. Ida, and you're like, yeah, no, I think I'll stop there, you're free to do so. You get to stop yourself anytime you want. So just a quick introduction, Misha Safran, and I'm a joy and resilience coach, academic life coach, been a teacher for 30 years, raised 5 kids, grew up in Northern California. My partner, Jody Lewis.
I'm Jody Lewis. I am the legal director for a nonprofit organization that provides services for survivors of domestic and sexual violence.
And we'd like to introduce to you our panelist today. And I need to find my, oops, there it is, my screen. I'm learning technology. Dr. Ida Green is an intuitive life coach. Women seek her out who want to grow their self-love, improve their self-esteem, self-worth, relationships, own their power, and stand in their greatness. Women who know they deserve more, are underperforming, who see a larger version of themselves and want to be paid what they are worth. Ida can help you. Dr. Ida can help you call forth your inner guidance and help you use your intuition to have more fulfillment, joy, and happiness in life. And we've put Dr. Ida's website here. It's askdrida.com. And the reason being is all of our panelists have an option to be given a stipend for being here, to have us put that stipend towards a charity or to promote and support their business. And so we have had a conversation prior to Dr. Ida being here this evening, and we decided together, she said, I'd really love some support. She's got a huge history. So by the way, everyone, that bio you just saw, I hope you know, if you don't know, you're going to find out that is not the extent of her bio. She's very modest. It's like, oh, okay, not going to, I'll just give you this little tidbit. But Dr. Ida, welcome. Thank you for being here. It's a long introduction, and we want to give you the microphone now and just say, whatever feels right to you to share, please do. What doesn't, please take your time, breathe when you need to, pause. Panelists, we give you our utmost respect. And the attendees, people watching on Facebook, we'd like to ask you to pour nothing but love into the comments and chat. This is not a place for argument right now. This is the space for Dr. Ida to share whatever is in her heart and mind. And so with that, please tell us more about you and whatever you would like to share.
Okay, can you hear me well?
Very well.
Okay, everyone, I'm really delighted that this conversation is taking place, because it's been a long journey for me, and that journey for healing, and the journey continues because I keep telling myself and telling others what happened to my upbringing in Florida has really impacted me. And I've been working on my self-esteem and my self-love all my life because of how I was treated in Florida. And for me, I'm constantly pulling back those layers of woundedness and acknowledging myself. And I grew up in a time where, Black people were really property. But my first experience with inhumanities when I was a little girl, and my mother took me to the store to buy me some shoes, and I could not put my foot inside the shoe. I had to put my foot outside the shoe to see if it fit, because they thought there was something wrong with my skin and I would contaminate the shoe. And that left a really indelible impression upon me that, that I was not good enough, that something wrong with me, and I was flawed, and I was contaminate people, and people were not safe being around me. So that really set the stage of me not being acknowledged and not being a person and not being respected. And I remember my really early impression, my father, although he was respected in our house, he had to shake his head and say yes, sir, and no, sir, to grown men, white men. And that really bothered me. I just grew up a rage inside of me, but he had to do that to buy it. I was angered at the time, but now I realize, looking back, that he had to do that to stay alive. And that just really bothered me, that he was a grown man that had to act like a child just to be, be respected. And I remember one of my really second early experience when I think I may have been about 9 or 10, and my grandmother sent me to the store to buy something. She gave me a note to give to the men behind the counter, and I had to literally wait there. Seemed to me, I know it was an hour, but it probably was like 30 minutes. All the white people had to be waiting on before he would acknowledge me and give me what I needed. And so I remember also when we were growing up as a child, going through all these white neighborhoods, walking to school, because we didn't have a car, and we had to walk to school in the rain. And I remember this one time walking to school, and the white kids in the school bus spitting on me, as I was walking to school. So just really thing of inhumanity and really not being acknowledged and appreciated. And we really grew up very, very poor. We just did not, I never had much money. And my mom worked in a hospital doing in a hospital laundry. And my dad did some kind of laboring work for a while, doing picking oranges and things like that in Southern Florida. So I grew up in Pensacola, Florida. And so we just didn't have the money that we, the resource we need. My mom worked on Saturday. She worked at the hospital from Monday through Friday. And on Saturday, she worked at the hospital at a white lady's house. And this is what made me become a nurse, because my mom was with this lady who was a registered nurse, and she teach about these vegetables and fruits and all these things. And so I decided I wanted to become a nurse. Plus my aunt at the time was an LVN, and I wanted to become like she was considered a nurse. I wanted to become a nurse like my aunt. So that really inspired me. Plus I really wanted to go to Chicago, since my aunt was in Chicago. So I wanted to go there to live there. Give me a sip of water here.
Absolutely.
But at the time though, I had a little white friend. Blacks and white just didn't mix in Florida. And I had a little girl that was my white friend, but we could not play together. We could not be seen together. Like blacks and white grew up in separate neighborhoods. So I did not mix with whites until I went to Chicago to go to nursing school. And then I was a nursing student. And when we actually were talking, these people just liked me. I didn't know what they liked about me. They were just really like me, and I didn't understand that. But I did go to an all-black nursing school, because at that time, I went to Grady Hospital in Atlanta, Georgia, and they would not accept me. So I had to end up going to an all-black nursing school in Chicago, where they would accept me. So that really gave me this sense of, whites are better than me, and I'm not as good as white people. And so that gave me this sense of inferiority, not really always trying to be better. So my mom always told me, get an education, get an education. That's something no one can take away from you. So I really pursued the path of education, because with that knowledge, it gave me an opportunity to advance myself, and it gave me a place where I could be recognized and acknowledged for my intellect. So that's kind of got into this education pathway and continued on that pathway. But the when I really understand racism and systemic racism at its earliest core was I was younger, and I remember this thing about this Emmett Till murder, and I didn't understand. But this man, he just looked at a white woman. He was killed, hung from a tree from just looking at a white woman, and then in my own neighborhood, I think I may have been like in 10th or 11th grade or something like that. And one of my neighbors, they said, I'm pretty sure that's not true, but they said that he broke in someone's house. I'm pretty sure he didn't break into someone's house. I think he was walking through a white neighborhood, and they murdered him and said that he was trying to break in someone's house, but he would not do that. I mean, he was, was just a very kind, compassionate man. But in the South, Black men just were killed just for being existent. So we had to, but we knew where our place were in the South. And that was to be seen, be quiet, and not rock the boat, because otherwise you end up dead. So I do remember when we were younger, in fact, it was during that time when they had those sit-ins, but it was at that time where we had the colored fountain and the white fountain. So that's not humiliating. I could not drink from the white fountain. Sometimes I sneak water just to be defiant. Maybe hope that no one would watch me, just to see if it would be different, if I would change or something, if I drank some water in the white fountain. But I mean, I just really want to defy that system of that Jim Crow system. And it just, Blacks were just not, we were not people, we were not human, and we just could be seen and not heard. We just, in fact, I was thinking now, when I was just, before I was getting ready to go to Chicago, we were always right on the bus, and I was constantly inching up, because we had to sit on the back of the bus, and I was constantly trying to inch up a seat up further to get close to the front, but there was a line, and all the Blacks had to sit in the bus behind this line here. We couldn't go up any further, although, in defiance, I would just walk downtown to pay my mother's bill rather than sit in the back of that bus, because I was just really didn't want to be defined by who I was. So, and then I remember when I went to Atlanta, Georgia, when I was going up there to get through this testing to get in nursing school, and I was on the Greyhound bus, and these Black men were in the military, and because they went too far up in the bus, they made them get off the bus and beat these men. It was really just grown men. And I thought, well, God, if they can do this to the military, they can kill everybody. So Black men just did not stand a chance. So you just had to be very, very careful. I mean, Black women could take a little chance, but we couldn't take that many risks. But I think because my mother worked for a white lady, she was able to learn a lot about writing and reading, and that really inspired her and inspired me to get the education. That education was a path and the way out of the South. So as soon as I was able, in fact, I left when I was 17, and I thought, I'm not ever going back this place again. But what's really interesting, I just went back this past year. My aunt was, for April the 9th, and my aunt's 101 birthday, and I was named after my aunt. And the place where I grew up is still segregated. Now, my sister lives in a part of the city where it's still integrated, but the house where we grew up in is still in a segregated part of the city. So it has not changed. But I think the Black people live in that section because they own their own home. My mother, we still own my mother's home, and people feel comfortable in that neighborhood, and they have not migrated out of there. There are parts of Pensacola that is integrated, but the area where I grew up in is still segregated, and now it's become, I wouldn't call it the lower class, but people there still don't have a whole lot of money and don't have a lot of resources, and they're not into education, not advancing themselves. So it's kind of like it's a time warp, like time is just kind of stayed still. So I really still would not want to go back there to live because things haven't changed. Race relation, a little bit better, but they have not advanced that much to make me want to go back there to live, to buy a house, to want to go back there to live. So I only go, like I'm going and for Christmas to visit my aunt who, she's 101. And so who knows how much time she has left on the planet. So I go down there to visit her, and then my brother and my sister's still there. And my sister's she's learned what she can do and what she can't do and how she can maneuver. And my brother has, because of his smoking, he's in a facility. So he's in a field where he's taken care of. So just now my sister, my aunt, and my brother in that facility. But I just have no reason to go back because it has not progressed. I mean, I just definitely not be on the panel talking about racism, about, how I grew up in Florida, Pensacola. This wouldn't happen. So I think Florida is just more backward than all the other country. I mean, not United States, is just where they got started with that lynching and all that slave trade, and it just has not progressed as much as it could. Now there are some places there, but still Blacks are not as privileged. Like I just talked with one of the men there, Mr. Wingate, and he said one of his relatives owned the Wingate Beach that we could not visit when we were small, yet they don't have the right to the beach. Some Caucasian person owned the beach, even though their family has that right. So Blacks have just not progressed as much as we could. So I'm really glad we're having this conversation because, as I say, I've been working on my self-esteem for years. And when I was younger, I remember one time buying some bleach. I said that bleaching cream that bleached my face, make me look white. And my mother came in the bathroom and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I'm trying to get pretty." She said, "You're already pretty. You don't need to be putting anything on your skin." But that still didn't register with me. Mm-hmm. So when I left Chicago and came to California, I went to the Unity Church up here. And I remember this girl named Beth Brown. And I said, "You're so pretty, you're so pretty, you're so beautiful." She said, "You are too, you're a reflection of me." I said, "I'm not a reflection of you." So it took me just a long, I had another girl, she said, "But you're brown and you don't need a suntan." I said, "Oh yeah, I need it." I just did not get over this stuff about my skin color. So it's still taking me some time to accept that. And when you get these layers of woundedness and acting inferior, I'm constantly teaching class about self-esteem and self-worth and all that. It's because I need that for myself. I'm healing my own self. I haven't completely healed yet. So I'm constantly still healing this little girl inside of me that was wounded, that told that she was not important, that she was not valued, and that she was not beautiful. So I'm still working on healing from the inside out. So I'm teaching because I need to hear it. I need it more than other people. So I teach what I need to heal inside of me. And that self-worth and that self-love is something that's constantly growing. Just last week, it's been, I had, it's really interesting because I'm going to talk to my dentist when I go back. I was treated in a very disrespectful manner by him, and I've been thinking about that. And he was saying, "Well, no one else wanted you, and you found me, and and none of the other dentists would take you. And then I thought, I had a choice. When I go back to him, I'm gonna let him know that I did have a choice. I really didn't like being disrespected and not valued and appreciated by him. And I just didn't like the way he talked to me and the tone of voice he used with me. And I just felt very disrespected. So sometimes kind white people can lose he lost his bearings. I don't know why really don't know why he's angry at me. I know I missed the appointment, and he said he tried to call me to give him another appointment, but life is what it is. And he was talking. In fact, he asked me, "What about the teeth?" I said, I don't care about the color of the teeth. I said, people see me, see my soul, they see my spirit, and they don't worry about how white my teeth is. I don't care what my teeth are. They can be purple, I really don't care. He got mad. I'm gonna give you some beautiful teeth as well. No one's ever asked me about my teeth, which is true. No one's ever talked about the color of my teeth since I've been born, yet he's worried about, at this stage in life, who cares whether the teeth are purple or blue or green? It doesn't matter.
As long as they work, right?
When you disrespect me, it doesn't matter. At least I've got teeth and they work, and I can eat with them.
Yeah.
So it's just this.
Can I ask you a question, Dr. Ida?
Go ahead.
So I've got it going, replaying over and over in my head. You mentioned how back in Pensacola, is that how you say it, Pensacola?
Pensacola, Florida.
Pensacola, Florida, that it hasn't really progressed, that there are, and we've had several discussions with other panelists who talk about the nature of progression and whether it's a choice or it's a systemic issue. And there's been arguments about it. There are some people there's some Black people who say, well, people have a choice. They need to have more, push and get out there and do what they're supposed to do. And yet there's also an argument that the system is how am I trying to say that? The system, the way it is set up today and has been for so many years, blocks people whether they have the choice or not. And so I'm curious if you could maybe elaborate a little bit on when you said it hasn't progressed, people are kind of not moving forward. What do you see the reason being?
I've heard this, it's really true. You can tie an elephant, when you put an elephant to a chain, the minds of Black people enslaved, our minds have been programmed to be inferior and to act inferior. Now, I've got a lot of education, but there's still some woundedness inside of me that I need to heal. That education not going to heal. Is every time I'm disrespected like that white dentist, it brings up this woundedness again. And certainly there are some progression in Pensacola, Florida, but it hasn't progressed with its open discussion about racism. I can't talk about this in Pensacola. It would not have a TV show, radio program where I could talk about this. California is very progressive, and we can talk about that. Now, they do have some places down there where you can go eat, and like my sister that we went to Red Lobster Way, but we didn't have an integrated setting where we were out talking, so I still mingling with Black people when I go there with my family and I don't have any white friends in Pensacola. All the people that I know are Black people, I just don't have any white friends in Pensacola. I have them in California, but not here. I don't have them. And I've had them in Chicago too, but I don't have them in Pensacola. I can't think of one white person that I could call now and talk to in Pensacola, Florida. So I'm free, but just no one has friended me or want to be my friend or asked to go out to eat or take me out to eat, or nothing like that. So
it's
I
the
still have
oppression.
limitations. Yeah.
So it's the oppression and the woundedness and then also the system that's keeping people from progressing.
Yeah, and then I go to I go to African American church, and one of the guys there, one of the boys there, his mother married a Black man, and she moved to Pensacola. But he was saying because he was mixed and because his mom was white, he could not be accepted fully and he was stopped by the police a lot in Pensacola, and he was not treated. So he wanted to come back, and he joined the Navy, and he came back to California because he didn't like, although his mother was white, his dad was black. He was not, he was constantly being harassed by the police and stopped by, even though he has a mixed, a white Caucasian mom, he was not treated, his mom was treated different than he was, even though he was her child, because he was mixed. So he still was not treated with respect and dignity. So Black people still doesn't have the worth and the value, and they're just not owned and valued as being worthwhile people. So I think Florida, maybe, I don't know if it's the last place, but it just did have a lot of hangovers of the colonials South. I mean, it's not progressing as well as as fast as it could. You know, we could not have this discussion in Florida. They're just not, somehow they just got a mindset of slavery. You know, they had people on those slave blocks and all that. So they're just reminded that you got to stay in your place, and this is your place, and you can't step out of those boundaries. So that's why I could not live there, because I would never get the education that I have and have the freedom that I have to talk and to speak and to advance and to promote myself. I just would have shackles behind my back. That's why I feel that I just cannot live there, because it doesn't promote my expression. My spirit doesn't flow. So it just reminds me that I am Black when I go back there. I'm nowhere at my places. I'm reminded of that, so I don't step out of those confines. And I think I've tried to, but I haven't had anybody in Florida, Pensacola, to ask me to be their friend, or to take me out to lunch, or take me out to dinner, or to cook me a meal. No, they invite me to by the house to eat. I don't know, it just hasn't happened yet. Maybe it will happen soon, but it hasn't happened over this hour.
Yeah. You know, when
Yeah.
you say when I go back there, I'm reminded I'm Black.
Mm-hmm,
That was a very powerful statement to me.
mm-hmm.
I don't know why, and I don't know where it came from, but when I was growing up, I always thought Black was beautiful. I always, always,
Well,
always.
my mother said that,
Yeah,
but there's a thing in my mind that says, yeah, it's good. The words are nice, but it's not,
it's
I
not
guess it's
in
the way I
there.
was not treated. I
Yeah.
knew that I was beautiful, but the way I was treated did not make me feel beautiful.
Right. And so
Yeah.
when you say that you go back there, you're reminded you're Black, it's like this instant PTSD, instant trauma of it's not okay to be Black.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And but what I'm hearing is it's not okay to be Black as much. I'm going to try to phrase this properly. When I'm in Pensacola, Florida, it doesn't feel as safe and okay to be Black as I do where I live now.
Yeah,
Is that what
absolutely.
I'm hearing? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And there are public gatherings where you can go to, but I have not been to those public gatherings in Pensacola. So I'm in and out.
Yeah.
I'm not lingering around and trying to look for friends. No one has looked to be my friend. So at least in the Caucasian people. So they're not looking for me. I have people in San Diego in California that like me, and even when I'm in the grocery store, people reach out to me and talk to me. I don't have anybody reaching out to me and talking to me when I'm in line. And I've just been treated differently in San Diego than I have in Florida. One time I was in the store in San Diego here, and I just started a conversation with a lady, and I was going to have a fundraiser for my nonprofit, and the lady donate a painting, a $500 painting for my nonprofit.
Wow.
No one has ever done anything like for me in Pensacola, and they don't know I have a nonprofit. They could care less, because you got to stay in your place. There's a place, there's just a place where you know where you stand in Pensacola. You need to just, I guess it could open up, but so far it has not expanded, and I'm not going down there to wait for it to expand.
Yeah.
I'm staying here in San Diego.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
I
Good.
can
I think that's a good idea.
my future, and I can be on webinars and advance myself. Everyone doesn't see me through the eyes of race in San Diego, California.
Right. Right. And when you were sharing your stories earlier, someone in the panel has been putting some
Oh
some.
yeah, they can ask me a question. I can
Yeah.
breathe and
Well,
they can ask me a question.
this person actually just said, Dr. Green, I send hugs and thoughts of peace and wholeness to you. And this participant is a BIPOC WOC woman of color and appreciates that there's this space and glad that you're here. And then she also said, I love your candor, Dr. Green. So,
Thank
you still haven't told everybody how many degrees you have or how old that you
you.
have.
Okay, well, yeah. Well, first
Not
I
that that's
became,
the most important, but I did hear from you that your mother said, get an education. And so that's clearly
and I got on
important.
that education track, and that was my ticket out of Florida. And that's been my ticket throughout life because once you get into this, it's almost like a drug. I love to learn and I love to get educated. So I just love to learn now, because I got validated for it. My dad would give me $1 if I got an A, and I get 50 cents for a B. So my mom didn't give me any money. She kept promoting, get an education, get an education. That's something no one can take away from you. So she valued, so she kept putting that in my mind. So yeah, I love to learn, but I did get, I think I love to learn. So when I was in Chicago, I went to Moody Bible I got a degree, a ministerial degree in Moody Bible study, but I also went to DePaul University in Chicago. Once I graduated as an RN, I went to DePaul University. Then when I still had this thirst for knowledge. And so when I came to California, I had to get pass a certain number of degrees, a test to get my license validated in California. So I had to, I think it's like 800 points or something. But I was so scared. I broke out in the rest. I thought, I really want to go to California. So I married a Marine and I did come to California. I spent my whole life at San Diego State University. I just lived out there, it was my home. So I did get my RN, then I went back to get my bachelor's, but got my bachelor's in psychology. And I had met up with racism in California though too, because
Sure.
when I first got, it wasn't my first, but I was not accepted. I was the first person on San Diego State campus to pursuing a degree. And so my professor, first Black person, and so my professor flunked me. So I had this white man who befriended me, and he helped me develop a test for Black people, but he also helped me get into psychology, the Psychological Society for people for psychology. So Dr. McCollum, he was like my white daddy because he helped me to really get accepted into psychology, because they would not accept me in that venue. So I had a really big time. But he invited me to his house and he became my friend, plus my sociology professor. She let me grade her tests and make money. And then one of my psychology teachers let me speak in his class about racism.
Oh,
And
wow.
I just said, this is a problem with racism. And he said, well, you can just teach the class then. He
Yes.
teach the class, and that was awesome because I had so much rage, especially with Martin Luther King, when he got shot. I just want to burn something up. I was so mad and so angry. I just want to burn something. So he let me teach the class. And I got a place to express my anger and my frustration, because I thought, they
Wow.
killed this man. He was peaceful. They definitely killed me too. So I just had all this pent-up rage and anger. So my psychology department was just a healing balm for me at San Diego State, because they let me get rid of all that frustration. But I really was just, I guess I wouldn't say I was hampered, but I just didn't have the self-esteem to really pursue those classes because of Dr. McCollum, and also the Black Student Union gave me the courage to get my little fire going. So I got, in fact, they kicked me out of that this thing in San Diego State. So I had to apply to be readmitted back to the psychology department. So Dr. McCollum helped me to do that. So it's just been I wouldn't call it a struggle, but it's been a journey of just being accepted. And it's like there's been one hurdle after another, one hurdle after another, but I just am resolute. And I believe this education is the key. So I just keep going, pursuing that path. But I do have a bachelor's in psychology. I have a master's in counseling. In fact, when I got my bachelor's degree, my dad and my mom could not come out here to visit for my graduation. And that's the only time in my life I felt really suicidal. I really felt like, I thought, well, what? Everybody's family's here. Nobody's here to celebrate me. And so I felt, I just told my mom and my dad, I said, I feel like, I don't know why, I feel like I want to commit suicide. And so they brought me home. We never discussed it. But once I was accepted and valued and appreciated, I came back to California and I was good to go. But I think it's because they could not be there for my graduation. So I didn't have one there celebrate me for my bachelor's or my master's degree, because they were in Florida, they just didn't have the money to travel out there. But I was okay with my master's. Once I realized they loved me and they just didn't have the money to come and that they valued me, I thought, okay, let me brush myself up. I'm okay, but I just feel like everyone has family but me. I didn't have a family here. So I came to California without any family. In fact, I married a man well, my first husband was schizophrenic and I didn't know that. So, but anyway, once you marry people and I'm committed to being married or whatever, but it was really horrendous because I had worked as a psychiatric nurse. I never lived with a psychiatric, mentally ill person. So he was schizophrenic and it was just really, really traumatic for me because I had to work in a psychiatric hospital. I had to go home and live with a mentally ill husband. But I didn't think he was going to kill me. He was paranoid. He had all these knives and things against the window to keep people coming in to hurt us. But his family was afraid of me because they thought he would kill me, but I didn't think he would kill me. But I got to the point where I could not take care of him. So, because he was taking off his clothes and walking on the freeway and just doing, not safe. So I sent him to Florida so his family could take care of him. But they couldn't keep him taking off his clothes either. So he got pneumonia and died.
Oh,
yeah. So that was kind of sad though. I felt really bad about that because I could just keep him. I couldn't take care of him,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
anyway, that was traumatic. But anyway, I did get mine. Then in the Central City School, they pay you to get educated. So I went back to get a pupil personnel credential. I went back to get a teaching credential where I could teach nursing to people. I taught the ROP people. So I had all these degrees, a school nurse credential, a pupil personnel credential, a counseling credential. I just kept learning because you get money getting educated. Just on this education path, so it really was fun though, working as a school nurse and working as a counselor. But then I met this other man that I guess I did love him, but he was bipolar, he was an alcoholic, and he was also physically abusive.
Oh no.
And so this was a chapter in my life that really changed my life I think in a negative way, because I just really, I thought, I'm not gonna let this man hit me anymore. When I think about, next time he hit me, I'm gonna harm him. I thought, I gotta leave this man. I love him, but if I gotta live with someone to think about hurting them, then I need to leave them. So it took me some time, but I did have to leave him. Plus, I had adopted a boy. Well, he's one of my students, really. I was working as a school nurse. I became a foster mother and also was raising him. And he said I thought I was being with the man to make him happy. But after I left the man, he said he wanted me to be happy. He thought I was happy. I was miserable. First, I was thinking about harming the man. So I had to leave. I leave the man. And then during that time that while I was still in that marriage, the boy got killed by gang members. So
Oh.
they ended up having to bury him, bury his grandmother, bury his mother. So I just had to, just had a lot of trauma because of that. Plus, during that time, I became a foster mother and taking care of a lot of other children because I couldn't have children of my own because of my, my mentally ill husband. We couldn't I couldn't get pregnant. And the other one, I didn't want to get pregnant with him because he was bipolar and, and physically abusive. So there's no time to be thinking about making babies with a crazy man that's going to beat you up. So I was not thinking about that either. So the that impact of that abuse really traumatized my soul because I tried to be quiet and I was quiet and I tried to fight back, but I was blue and purple and blue all over. And people, they at work, they didn't know that I was being abused by this man because they isolate you and they keep you quiet so you can't talk. So I was silent. The only one knew I was being beat up for this boy and this man. So this became a very toxic relationship. It took me some time, but I finally had to leave that relationship. So since I left that relationship, I've been working on my self-esteem and my self-worth. Besides being, coming from a history, but there's now had found relationship that was toxic and abusive too. So this progression of self-love is continuing and I don't think for me, it will ever stop because as I heal myself, I'm healing other people. So I'm big into self-esteem, I'm big into self-love. And right for a while, the way that I did heal myself, though, I started teaching self-esteem classes to the shelter, women in the shelters, the domestic violence shelters, and started teaching classes on domestic violence, a 52-week class on domestic violence and one on anger management. And so I started working with kids in foster homes and abused homes. I did that to heal myself and to heal my own woundedness too. So it's just been layers of growing up. I think when you grow up in an abusive culture, you kind of bring on some of that abusiveness to you. So you can seem like you almost, I wouldn't say not always. I am whole and I'm much better now than I was, but because of my initial woundedness, I was attracting abusive woundedness into my life. So it's constantly expanding and growing. And so let me tell you, this is one of the things that was really traumatic. When I had my bachelor's, I had my master's, I was working to get my license as a marriage license therapist. And because I was working, my husband was a cab driver, and then he became a truck driver while I was, still married to him. When I started getting my license as a marriage and family therapist, he became very traumatic, physically abusive. So when first time I went to take the test, I missed it by 5 points. The next time I took the test, I missed it by 2 points. So the third time, I got myself hypnotized. I got someone to drive me up there to take the test. He knew I'd taken the test and he was mad at me, but I passed the test. So the third time I passed it, but he just didn't, he didn't want me, and I didn't see it, but he didn't want me to be advanced, bigger than him. I mean, I was not going to treat him differently, but somehow he felt
threatening
my education, about me getting education. So he was just not comfortable with me getting educated. So I finally had to, get myself into another environment. I had to go to a shelter and take my son with me and stay with one of the ladies that I worked with so I can get myself out of that marriage. But then that was just a whole trauma because he tried to sue me and wanted me to pay him alimony because I was a teacher making more money than him. So this journey of woundedness and healing, it's just always peeling back the layers, of just trying to be whole and be an individual. And so for me, the journey never ends of just really acknowledging who I am and being, so that's why I'm really on this spiritual path now of really peeling back the layers and just looking at my woundedness and helping other women to peel back the layers of their woundedness so we can all just kind of find a pathway through this stuff and we can be whole. So it's been a journey, the
Yeah.
journey to wholeness and health and I guess healing and wholeness is where I'm the journey I'm on right now.
Mm, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you want to share. Jody actually works with. Go ahead.
Well, I said earlier, I work with survivors of domestic and sexual violence. And I think one thing that you said, that as you became more educated, which equates with more opportunity for economic independence, he became more physically abusive. And we often see that because they're losing control, right? And I think as a member of the BIPOC community, you all have experienced that oppression where you cannot get economically stable because of the systems that are in place. And you were experiencing that on multi levels, right? You had the oppression, systemic oppression, ranging on, there's so many things that happened, even getting loans or whatever it is, or you talked about your education opportunities, difficulties even within the systems there, but then you had in your private life as well, the abuse and the control, so it made it even harder. But there's such a connection there of how that oppression works, from a very individual level to a broader systemic level.
And I think there's not, I wouldn't say there's not, but there aren't that many available specimens of varieties of African American men to pick from. And so you pick from what's in your environment. But I think because I had that woundedness inside of me, I may have attracted someone who's just as wounded or more wounded than me.
Absolutely.
So it's almost like the wounded trying to help the wound. I'm already wounded, and I'm picking someone who's more wounded than me, a Black man who has his own woundedness, and it just layers adding on to that. And plus he had his alcoholism. So it was just, yeah, he was from Philadelphia, by the way.
Well,
But
you're talking about oppression on top of oppression on top of oppression for not just your lifetime, but you even mentioned from your ancestors. In fact, when you and I were on our call together the other day, you were talking about looking up your ancestry and the woundedness that came across the waters to the United States, So it's no surprise to us anyways. We don't like it, but it's no surprise to us that you've got this oppression that's leaded to being more oppressed and more oppressed and more oppressed, and yet you've done a lot to climb out of that and you're working on yourself diligently. But not everybody has that ability or energy or motivation or inspiration or support.
It's been a journey.
Yeah.
It has been a journey. It is not easy. It is not easy to break out of that. In fact, I'm one of the few women that really, in fact, had I not been trying to teach self-esteem and domestic violence, I would not have broken out of that cycle. So there's so many people still in that cycle. The women that I was teaching could not break out of that cycle. So my education, plus inside this system here of being a teacher, I was the only Black person inside there. So they were trying to get rid of me constantly. So I had to fight to be the first Black person teacher and fight that system because they were constantly writing me up and trying to get rid of me because I was only like the one Black woman that was there. And so it was constantly trying to get rid of me and write me up. And that was just a nightmare I had. Let me tell you, this was really interesting, and because I am a Christian, but I also had a picture of an angel in my office, and a lot of my clients were Christian. They came out here, the county, and I'm not going to go in a lot of detail, but they came out here they have to do an annual evaluation because I had this picture of an angel and Jesus. They took all my clients away. So I had no clients and no money for like 2 years. They abandoned me. So I went down there, found one man. In fact, I don't know, I'm pretty sure God was just with me. They said, can you have any problem with how you've been treated with the county and what they've done? I went down and talked with this man and told him how I had been treated. He said, I'm going to fix that. And he wrote a letter or something. He got me back reinstated. I had to go back and build my clientele all over again. But I had a thriving clientele practice, and they just wiped all of that away. So I had to go back and start building again. and again. So the journey for me has been continuous, peeling back the layers and walking in the landmines and obstacles. So I constantly have to, because I've been the first in everything, and you're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to do this. I
Right.
just kind of got knocked out. So I keep getting back up again and going south again. So it's just been a journey for me of survival of the fittest, So it's been, I'd say, and also one of the things that my grandmother really and taught me when I was younger. She said, I'm from the Watusi African tribe, and we're survivors. So she always saw herself as a tall Watusi woman. So I thought, when I get bigger, I'm gonna go. Wasn't until 2015 that I went back to find where my ancestors came from. So they came from Zimbabwe, but my grandmother was just really proud of herself as a Watusi African. People are afraid, shade of Africa, and we don't want to go there. And my grandmother said, "Oh no, I'm a Watusi African." She was so proud of herself. So that really made me want to expand my horizon and had me get interest in Africa and then travel and into my culture. So it took me outside of my own personal woundedness to look at the African tribe. And when I got to Africa, their experience was just as bad or worse as ours in the United States. They had to walk on the sidewalk, and there was so much stuff parallel in Africa where I think it was the Dutch or the French. I can't remember. One of the people took over African, and the Africans became like little children like we here in the United States. So it's just, I think skin color is just a big issue around the world.
Yes, it is.
And we have to work on this skin color. Somehow this darker this complexion, the less worth you have, the less value you have. It's just something we have something with the skin color here that need to change.
Well, the skin color doesn't need to change, but the thought process behind what
Well,
people.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think it starts with I believe it starts with the skin color and then the mindset. When you enslave a mind, you enslave a whole race of people.
Yes.
So we have freedom, yet we're not as kind. I would say we don't uplift other Blacks as we should, because we've been pressed down. So we learn how to suppress others. So it's just like a vicious cycle. But I really believe that the more Caucasian can lift other Black, when I get validated by Caucasian people, then other Blacks in the world validate me. So Black people still need the support and the accolade and the lifting up of other Caucasian white people, because we can't lift ourselves up because we're already oppressed, and it's like we're suppressed. The oppressors, the oppressors. But when
Yes.
someone outside can shine a light on it, says, "Let's lift you up. We all can go together." It makes the burden and the yoke much easier.
Yeah. It's really
Yeah.
sad that it has to be that way, but I also hear you that that's
Yeah,
what
we
we're
need
hoping for.
we
want
need the support of other
exactly.
Caucasian people to lift us up, to just someone to come along, go with me. Let's just go together. I've needed that, and I still need that. And
Yeah.
so I have not, you still need that lifting hand, that little boost.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, that
we
makes
still
sense.
need that. We still
Right.
need it.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I can speak for myself and for Jody. I can't speak for Jody. Jody can speak for herself. But it seems like there are more and more people who are willing to do that.
Mhm.
Um, it's not enough yet, but one day at a time, we're working
This is a
towards.
start. This is a start, because this is the first, until George Floyd died, no one would even talk about race. It was just something that you didn't talk about. It just, until the world started looking at the United States, say, "You guys got a race problem." Say, "Oh, we have a race problem, really?" let's fix that. But no one was able to look at it until outside the world looked and said, "You guys got a problem. You need to fix that."
Mhm.
So I think shining the light and becoming more like these conversations, these platforms, it increases the world awareness. And I think it's great for people, to have forums like this where people can talk about that. because we have not been able to talk about this openly and freely. And people say, we've got a problem, let's fix it. People say, oh no, there's a problem, but it's out someplace else. It's not here in the United States.
Right.
So I appreciate you having me talk about my woundedness and the journey that I've had and how challenging it's been just to be validated as a human being, because I've been property for most of my life.
And I think what you're saying, Dr. Ida, I'm glad that you feel safe, number one.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Um, the other thing that I'm hearing is, this thirst for learning, the work and the time and the effort you put into getting an education.
mm-hmm.
Still, there are a lot of people out there who think, well, that should do it. You got an education, you shouldn't have any more woundedness. You got to have things that usually Black people don't get. Well, all of that's bullshit. The fact of the matter is, woundedness does not just disappear.
Oh,
And there's
yeah.
been so much of it
Mm-hmm.
that while you've made some great strides in doing things that work for you in your life, it's not enough yet. It's like there's too much.
And I'm still trying to bring other people along with me,
Mhm.
because I want to be a beacon of hope and light and let people know that it's possible. But I want to lift people up and have us all rise up together, because as the woundedness of the race, I would say like a cancer, as that cancer healed, then all the racism and the woundedness of our whole entire race can be healed from the inside out. So we still have some more healing to do. It's not completely healed yet.
Yeah.
It's work in progress.
Oh, yes. So I'm curious, since Jody was mentioning at the beginning about how things have been televised more. And so now people are, seeing things and
Mhm.
believing that it's actually happening as opposed to just word for word. Do you feel more hopeful this year than you have in the past about the direction our country's going in? Or do you still feel really,
There's more to be done, but I like the platform that you guys have here. I really like that they're shining light on it, like especially in Sage's program. She said, we don't tolerate this here, because even in her program, I experienced some racism, and I talked to her about it. And she said, well, we're not going to tolerate that here. But I think there's people unconscious, not enlightened, not awake, and into their own brainwashing that it doesn't exist, and we're not going to look at that, and let's just pretend it. So there's still people in denial. But when you, as we heal, as I heal, the whole planet, the whole universe heals. So this is it's a journey just to bring awaken African Americans up to the fact that they are beautiful, that we're worthwhile people, that we know we made a contribution, but to have it sink in that we made a contribution is a whole nother level that needs to take place.
yeah, many contributions?
So that we don't have to be the first of everything.
Right, right, right. And with any group, there's always a first. There's always somebody that's forging through for everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this idea of to leave where you are cleaner than where it was when you got there, the same thing as the very first person who opened a tunnel, right? The very first person who built a plane, the very first person who started doing the braids and the hair. We just had an awesome interview with Connie last month, who's a hairstylist, and she's fabulous. But there's always going to be a first. And if there isn't that first, then there may never be an opening, right? So you forged through you talked about many different scenarios where you were the first. And so I would hope that could give courage to other folks in the African American or Black BIPOC communities to say, oh, it can happen. I just need to find the right support to raise me up so I can be first. I can go forward and do that.
Yeah, there just need to be more avenues and more support, and not denial that, just because a few have gotten through the door and have knocked the door down and gotten through, there's still a big crack. I mean, a big door, but people go
Right.
through it's just like a little keyhole or someone going through the keyhole. But we need to have the whole door open up so people can just walk through rather than still be climbing, fighting. But all the anger and aggression is about not being acknowledged and not being valued and not being appreciated. So there's just not enough platforms for that to happen, and not enough awakened, enlightened people who want to allow that to happen. So you guys have a platform that's open, but everyone don't have these platforms where they are opening this door. So let's look at this and let's shine a light on this so the world can be healed. Because as I'm healed, you healed, and the whole planet is healed. But it's going to take some more work for the planet to be healed, because there's just a lot of, as you know, there's just a lot of undercurrent backlash when people come forward and say, you don't have a problem, there's nothing wrong with you, and you're okay, and we're just fine. This will leave things the way they are. We can't leave it the way it is, because there's still more layers, more layers of the onion to be peeled back. And we have to just shine a light on this and say, no, there's just more people need to come through this door.
It's a big door.
Yeah.
There are a lot of big doors.
Right now, it's just a keyhole, but
no,
it's a
that's gonna stick
keyhole.
in my head. That was quite a visual for me. That's very powerful.
Yeah, it's just a keyhole, but we need to have a door right now. Just walk with the little keyhole in terms of, yeah, people are getting some insight, but it's bigger than that. It's really healing the soul of a person. When you can change the soul of an individual for centuries and make them feel that they're not worth and not valued, that has to expand, and just has to be a bigger healing taking place. Like the pustule is still, the pustule is opening up, and the pus is flowing out, but there's a lot more for it to stench to come out.
Yes, yes, absolutely. We've spoken very truly from a nurse. I don't like pus.
Well,
I know, but there's a lot of it, isn't it? And there's even
Yeah.
more below the surface that has to go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So this
yeah.
is a great platform to expose this kind of stuff.
It's a deep infection, very
Yeah.
deep infection.
Yeah. So I appreciate the platform and the opportunity to shed light on this, because the more light that is, more things in the dark that come to the light, then we all can rise together and be healed as a whole, as a race of people,
Absolutely.
as a planet of people.
Yeah.
As brothers and sisters on the same, who breathe the same air and on the same planet.
And have the same color blood.
Yeah. And the same spirit. That's why I want to get this intuition, because spiritually we're all the same, but we somehow forget that. We get, I don't know, we get so caught up in the color of the skin, we don't look at the soul.
Yeah.
That's where I'm headed with this intuition, that let's look at the soul and heal the soul, because that's what we all are here with, this intuition, this soul. Let's just heal the soul. We all come from one source. Yeah, we haven't gotten there yet. We're heading in the right direction.
Yeah. So would you like to tell people who are listening or watching more about your business and what you offer and how they can reach you and contact you? Besides I know we have that website, AskDrIda.com.
Yeah.
But tell us more. If you have, I think you had a program or tell us more.
Yeah, I have two programs. I have intuitive relationship program. I want to help people to really get into the inner soul of relationship. And that could be like healing this inner part of yourself with this woundedness part of racism. And it could really be relationship with self. I call it relationship with self and others. So for me, it's both relationship with others, and at the core is relationship with myself, healing my outer woundedness, and then healing my inner woundedness. So helping other people to look at, because there's so much abuse and trauma and hurt and pain and substance abuse and all kinds of sexual abuse and, the sex trap, and all this is woundedness of the soul, the individual. But once we can get to the person, like I can heal my soul, then I can help others to heal too. So I want to really do a relationship, and then I want to do it within intuition to help people look at their divine self, their soul, so we can get to the essence of who we came to be. We're divine beings, and we came here. So I want people to start listening to that inner wisdom and that inner guidance, because I was listening to my inner guidance, following you and listen to the inner guidance and that intuition. We can evolve and get to a better place so I want to teach people that we're intuitive beings and we're divine beings, and start listening to that intuition, listen to that inner guidance, will always guide us in the right direction. Just like last week, I had a little girl to show up who wanted me to friend her on Facebook, and she just kept showing up and kept showing up. I thought, okay, let me accept her as a friend. When it comes to find out, the lady said, I'm so glad that you accepted me as a friend. I have a women's conference in Dubai. I'd like to invite you to join, come as a speaker. Had I not followed my intuition, listened to that, and followed that link, I would not have been open to that. So just listening to, there's just an intention for our soul. So I'm really here as a leader, as a transformation leader. In fact, I just posted today that everyone is here for a divine purpose. And what is that divine calling? Yours is shedding a light on racism, but everyone has a divine calling, and how we can expand that and look at our divine divinity of who we really are. We're divine beings, and we're here to heal the planet. And more we're able to step into that global world where we all come from. This is how we're going to be a safer planet for us all to live in. So I do have that program. I tell people they can use my intuition. I got channel messages from God, from source. I said, you can listen to my intuition. I can teach you and train you how to use your intuition. So I want to do both. I really want to teach people how to use tap their own intuition, their inner guidance. So I want to have an online program where I teach women, well, men too, but definitely women, is how to get the intuition, the inner guidance, so they can span that and we can follow that. So the relationship program is one, and that's online. Well, it could be in person, but right now it's online. And also the intuition program is one online. So I really want to have people join my online program on relationship and on intuition. So I have a group on Facebook, a group where it's Relationship That Works is my Facebook group. And then my intuition group is Intuition for Life Solutions. And so I'm going to be teaching about that. So I'm going to teach about Intuition 101, and then Intuition 102, teaching people how to really tap into this intuition, tapping into the intention, the divine purpose, what they're here to do on the planet. And you're doing what you came here to do. You're finally finding your niche. This is what you came to do. And you have this platform to enlighten the world about racism. So that's your platform. That's what you came to do. And you're doing that. And you're doing a beautiful job of it. And thanks for finding me to be one of your spokespersons, because that's what you came to do. And you're doing that. So you're doing that. And I appreciate that. So those are my two paths. Relationship That Works, help people that really have a relationship with themselves and with others, and also with your intuition. Certainly I channel message from God, and I want to have people use my intuition. I want to teach them how to use it. Everyone has it, but I want to just have it in a bigger way so that they can get these, they call them downloads, whatever you want to call it. Just get these messages and tap into them and go with them flow. We were born to thrive and to survive, but not just survive, but to thrive. So I want us all to thrive together, and together we can spread our wings and fly throughout the universe.
Love that. So let me see if I can just summarize for everybody. So you have two programs. There's the relationship program and the intuition program. You have online courses, Intuition 101, Intuition 102.
Mhm,
And then you also have a Facebook group, two Facebook groups. One is called Relationships That Work.
mhm.
And what was the second Facebook group?
Intuition 101. It's really
Oh, that's the
like
Facebook group.
intuition for life solutions. And inside that is intuition 101 and 102. And the title is awaken, develop, and grow your intuition. Intuition 101. Awaken, develop, grow your intuition.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So let me
Wonderful. Oops, you muted yourself.
I didn't want you to hear the phone, but do you want to ask me a question? I'm so popular, someone's already reaching out to me.
That's okay. That's okay. I mean, phones ring. They ring. You know, that's what they do. No,
All right.
I think that you know, we just want to make sure that people know where to find you. And are they able to? Are your Facebook groups on your website too?
Well, one of them is the relationship, is the intuition. I'm really need to get someone to upgrade my website
Oh,
to
okay.
put that one on. So I'm still haven't done that. But the relationship one is there.
But
But
they can just, when they go to Facebook, they can just search for it, correct?
they can.
Okay.
They can. I
Great.
would love, my goal is, see, part of my mission with this, especially with the intuition group, I want to send African American boys to college instead of prison, because one of the boys that I adopted is still in this prison cycle. He has not gotten out of that. So since I was not successful in keeping him out of prison, I want to help other African American boys go to get on a track of education to keep from going down the prison route. So the money from this intuition class coaching program is going to give me the money that made the scholarships to send African American boys to college instead of prison. There's just still too many Black boys in prison instead of
Absolutely.
in the college population yet.
And you said you have a nonprofit too, right?
Yeah, it's the center of self-esteem.org. So people can make donations, direct donations to it, www.centerofselfesteem.org. So right now I only have like $700, so you definitely can need to get like $500,000 to get scholarship boards to go to prison. So yeah, so I'm trying to do it with my coaching program, but the more donation people give, then the bigger the fund can grow, so I can get boards to go to college.
Yeah. Well, I would highly encourage people to really seek out your services as a healer and an intuitive, because you know, once people work through their woundedness, they can also then help this, you know, education rather than prison platform as well.
Mhm.
So I'm really grateful for your work, Dr. Ida, and your passion and your love. And I mean, every time you said I love to learn, I felt it inside of me because I love to learn like constantly. So I don't know if you had anything else you wanted
Yeah, I
to.
just really appreciate you being here, Dr. Ida, and just sharing your early childhood experiences and how that continued as far as the oppression and not feeling included, and how that affected you and that continuous journey to find self worth and self love. I also really appreciate, as it said in the beginning, and you talking brought it up as well, that we're only going to heal as a nation and globally if we connect and we look at and see and hear each other as we are, and you're doing that in your work. I really encourage all listeners to donate to Dr. Ida's nonprofit, as she indicated, and we know that there are too many BIPOC community members that are incarcerated for just ridiculous length of time for no reason, often for petty drug crimes, and that getting the BIPOC community members out of jail and educated in the community is going to make a big difference. So please consider donating.
Yeah, yeah, and if you are not looking for an intuitive yourself, but you know someone who's looking for an intuitive, yeah, definitely send. Again, the website to support Dr. Ida Green is www.askdrida.com. I love it. That's right. Do you want to leave anybody with a?
You're a beacon of light in a world of woundedness, and I want to be that conduit that guiding light to health, wholeness, wellness, and healing, so I can contribute to that wholeness as well and be a beacon of light in the world.
You know, you already are. You may not see it,
Yeah,
but
I have a light.
every time I see you and your smile, I know that you are that conduit. You absolutely are. I've seen you over a year now showing up to our trainings that we, from where we know each other, and you are that conduit of light. And it's almost like I think we all have this idea that we're never doing enough, but Dr. Ida, you really are. Your presence is magnetic. It's beautiful, and just really grateful to have had this opportunity with you tonight.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for creating this forum and this pathway and this. It's a beacon of light. We all need this, what you've created. So you're following your own divine guidance, and I'm just a part of that.
You are a beautiful part of that. We made a great team, didn't we all tonight?
Absolutely. Love it, love it. Thank you both for being a beacon of light, and we're all rising together.
We are. We are.
Rising tides lift many.
Yeah. Well, everyone who's been listening and either on Facebook or tonight with us here in the webinar, or perhaps you are watching the replay, we will be sending out links to resources for being learned allies, scaffolding resources, and then if you are interested in being a panelist, you certainly can sign up. If you identify as a BIPOC community member, we will have a link where you can schedule. We do have these webinars on the third Sunday of every month from 3:30 to 5 Pacific, 6:30 to 8 Eastern. And if you're anywhere else in the world, you got to figure it out for yourself. So, any closing thoughts?
Well, I got one last thing. If they want to have a one-on-one session with me, they can go to www.calendly.com/Dr. Ida Green /30 minutes, and we can talk about how I can support them.
Perfect. I'm glad you gave me that link. I was going to say, how do they find? I mean, I don't know if they can go to your website to get that, but that's great. I'm going to put that link in everywhere. So again, calendly.com/Dr. Ida Green with an E /30 minutes. And that's
M-I-N.
oh, just MIN. Just MIN.
Uh-huh.
All right, beautiful lady. Fantastic. So you heard it here, you guys. Systemic racism is still alive and well, but you know what? We're going to kick its ass. We're going to
on
do
the
it together. We're on the path. That's right.
path.
Yeah.
We're healing it.
Yep, the healing path. Sending
One
lots
step
of
at
love.
a time.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Take good care, everybody. Love to you, Dr. Ida.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Okay.
All righty. And I love you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.